When the book Band of Brothers and the follow-up series on HBO by the same name were released, it seems like everybody after that knew the name Brecourt Manor and the Brecourt Battery. What a lot of people may not realize, though, is that the Brecourt Battery was not the only one in the Utah Beach sector here around Ste. Marie du Mont. There was actually a sister battery to Brecourt that was just as dangerous right here at this place. Today, we are, like I said, in the area of Ste. Marie du Mont, and we are going to be looking at the story of the fight at Holdy Battery. Now, like I mentioned, Holdy Battery is kind of like the sister battery to Brecourt Manor. It had 4 105mm guns. There were about 45 to 50 German troops who would have operated right here in this area. And the whole purpose of these batteries was not only to fire on troops who might be landing on Utah Beach, but to try and basically block or give harassing fire to the troops who would be coming up one of the 4 causeways. Now, Brecourt was covering causeway number 2. Holdy was going to be covering causeway number 1. Now, there's kind of a tragic story that is attached to Holdy Battery. The drop zone here was supposed to be for guys from the 501st and the 506th, but a lot of guys from the area of drop zone A, which is primarily going to be 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment troopers, ended up landing way off of their drop zone. They were supposed to be more to the north from where we are now, and some of them landed right here at Holdy Battery, right in the middle of some of these Germans. Some of them got stuck in the tall trees and were killed by the Germans, some in some very horrific fashions. There are some unconfirmed reports that some of the guys who got stuck, like in these hedgerows, had their thermite grenades pulled on them, like around their legs, or they had thermite grenades tied to their legs and pulled, or had them pulled while they were still on their jump equipment, which would be a horrific way to die. There was another guy who said that whenever he came here afterwards, he saw paratroopers who had their manhood cut off, his words, by the Germans. So absolute tragedy for some of these paratroopers right here on D-Day. Now, early in the morning on June 6th, there was an attempt to take Holdy Battery that ended up coming up short. So Colonel Sink sent in a guy by the name of Captain Lloyd Patch with 75 reinforcements to try and take Holdy Battery. So they made an approach. Holdy Battery is facing east towards Utah Beach. They were going to come in behind Holdy Battery and do a double envelopment to try and drive out the Germans who were occupying these 105mm guns. The home that we are looking at right now would have served as like a communication center for the Germans who were manning Holdy Battery. So it wasn't built, as part of the Atlantic Wall. This is a house that was pre-existing, that was occupied by the Germans. And whenever Patch got up to this area, he kind of hung back and positioned himself around this area somewhere with a machine gun, and then you would have had an element of paratroopers enveloping from this direction and another one off in this direction, performing what's called a pincer move to try and do a double envelopment of the Germans who were occupying the guns just a few hedgerows down. Okay, now just for the sake of reference, Right here is the farmhouse where I was just standing. And if we move forward here, make sure that I don't get hit by a speeding Frenchman. If we move down here and look into this field, now we can't go in here because we don't have permission. This is the field where the 4 105mm guns were positioned. Oh, here's something that Eric and Philippe pointed out to me that's kind of interesting. Here's some repurposed D-Day material. These are pieces that were used for the landing strip that was located nearby. And after the war, farmers repurposed them for fencing material. All right, I've moved down the road just a little bit more and found a spot where I can see this field a little clearer. This is where, again, the 4 105mm German guns were at Holdy Battery on D-Day. Okay, so I'm moving around the hedgerow now into an area where I can go. And what you see right here is the hedgerow that was blocking or camouflaging these 105mm guns. And you can actually see kind of a trench line that is going right through here in front of the guns. So on June 6th, Captain Patch's element that I mentioned made this double envelopment around these guns, ended up driving them back, and of course Patch was waiting there with his machine gun. I think, if I remember right, he killed around 10 Germans with his machine gun. They ended up pretty much wiping out this battery of German soldiers, and thereby protecting the troops who were moving in off of Utah Beach. Now, after taking out the Germans at this gun battery, Captain Patch's men continued on towards Sainte-Marie-du-Mont, which we can see the church tower there in the distance. And as they were moving in that direction, they came under some pretty intense mortar fire. It was assumed that there were some Germans that were calling in artillery fire from the top of the church tower there. So it was decided that they would take one of the German guns. 3 of them had already been destroyed, but they would take one of the German guns and use it to fire on this artillery observation post. The first one missed, and then the second one hit. Whether there were Germans there at the time or not, we aren't completely sure. There are some stories that there might have been some Americans up there who weren't killed. But anyway, yeah, that all happened right here from Holdy Battery. Just as a quick side note, there's a pretty famous photo of an 82nd Airborne glider that went down just on the other side of that hedgerow. But anyway, yeah, this is where it was. All right, well, that was Holdy Battery right here on the outskirts of Sainte-Marie-du-Mont. Whenever you start studying the history of D-Day and the history of World War II, there are just tons and tons of stories like this one. All kinds of heroic things that ordinary men did. Okay, these guys weren't necessarily superheroes or superhuman in any way. They were just regular guys put in extraordinary circumstances to accomplish some extraordinary things. All right, we're on to the next place.